last but not least, Mr. Armstrong of South Dakota.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Alasker. In most of my communities, in my state, the gas station is the only center of economic activity. So we really, really appreciate that. And I find it funny when you have 4 electric charging stations that cost somewhere between $400,000 and $1.2 million, if the irony isn't lost on people on what the feedstock for that electricity is coming into that charging station. But that's probably nothing. This isn't in the exact right order, but I think it's a pretty good flow chart. I mean, when you talk about what we're dealing with, you got IPAA and you're talking about the strangulation of permitting, whether it's FERC, whether it's state, whether it's local, whether it's a pipeline, whether it's an oil and gas lease on federal land, whether it's all of those different issues. And I think there's a second part to this industry, which is actually the backbone of most of my communities in Western North Dakota, which is the service industry. And it's not just permitting on the front end, it's permitting on the back end. It's harder to get a CDL right now, which means there's less CDL drivers, which means the ag industry, the convenience store industry, the oil industry are all competing for CDL. And the cost of diesel, all of these different issues continue to move up. You move over to food, and you've got the feedstock for anhydrous and natural gas, and all of the different permitting. You guys are caught up in the ESG fight every single bit as much, which pushes everything to you guys on the supply chain issue, plus the cost of the chuck wagon sandwich is going up, the cost of your employees is going up, the cost of getting your products delivered is going up because you have less CDL drivers and you're moving all the way through all of those things. And the people you represent and the people you're trying to better themselves, bring themselves, it doesn't matter if it's the urban poor or the rural poor or the working class moving to the middle class, they go to that gas station and their gas is 30 cents more expensive, their sandwich is 25 cents more expensive, their gallon of milk is $1 more expensive, and their loaf of bread 75 cents more expensive. And it starts with 1A and 1B, and that's energy and agriculture. Because if we can't grow it and we can't get it out of the ground in a cheap and reasonable manner, we can't do it. Then it comes to you, and it's everything from credit card fees, which they pass on down to the thing on the machine, and you guys don't pass 100%. I think this is really important. You don't pass 100% of the cost on to the consumer. You can't, because otherwise you're competing with big box stores who are always looking to consolidate in areas like this. So this is my question, and I think this is the most important question. We don't need to take this fight in Western North Dakota. We're an ag and energy state. We understand this stuff in Western North Dakota. My question for you, Ms. Jackson, is what do we as Republicans on the Energy and Commerce Committee need to do better to take this fight where it has to happen? People, when they understand this, understand what the constriction is, where it exists, why it happens, and who is really doing the damage. The problem is you can't put it in a tweet or a 15-second campaign commercial. So how do we do a better job taking this fight out of Western North Dakota and into the suburbs of Chicago or into rural areas in non-energy producing states that are getting double hit on food and they have to drive everywhere because there is no subway or no bus station? What can we do better to take this? I think we're really great on energy security, national security, food security. The United States is one of the best countries, is in this unique position in the world. We're one of the only countries in the entire world that has the ability to be both food and energy secure. We're really good at that argument. We're not great at this argument. What can we do better?
You know, and I don't know if I'm going to answer this correctly, but it's more messaging so that people realize that you're actually listening. You know, I heard a lot during the campaigns that a lot of urban communities said, well, what do you have to offer? And because they thought, well, you know, we already know how badly we're being treated by the left. That's what they know, how badly we're being treated. They know that they're deliberately, it's not unintended, they're deliberately increasing the cost of energy so that they can build a larger federal government. They're doing these deliberately, but what we sometimes don't do is say, listen, I'm not going to be afraid of you calling me a name, and I'm going to give you the message that first I'm listening, and then here's how I'm going to help. And I think that's the most important thing. I'm shocked that I get contacted by former presidents of the NAACP, steeped in the liberal movement, or urban league members, or people like this that you would never think would talk to a conservative are saying we need help. And the only thing they need to know is the fact that we're listening. So when we do hearings like this, when we put messaging out that says, listen, I want to hear how this is impacting your life, then that is how everything spreads. And I mean, I don't know if I answered that eloquently or not, but I'm certainly here, and the members of our organization are certainly here to say, you know what? They really want to help us. Because when you hear people saying equity or racism, they're not saying a nasty name that you called them. They're saying, I don't feel a sense of financial security. That's what they're saying. I don't see a way to have home ownership. And energy, unaffordable energy, is the thing that is blocking that, because now all of my extra money is going to energy costs, and it's destroying my small business, permanently closing my small business. And so then I have no way up into this realm. I don't know if that helps, but
I'm a minute over, but I think that's really important because I really care that we're increasing the cost per bushel, per acre on a wheat field. But what we have to get better at is the government's the reason your bread's more expensive.
exactly. The government is the problem.
I yield back, sorry.
And I appreciate the gentleman from North Dakota. My script said South Dakota, and I didn't think, so I apologize for saying that earlier.